But you're saved a little bit.
Oh, no, I think she said she was ready.
Okay. I'd like to open the August 2022 Town Board meeting and want to call the meeting to order. Invocation, Commissioner Robinson, would you lead us?
Yes. Kind merciful Father, we come before you this day, God, to give your name glory, honor, and praise, and to thank you for allowing us to see this day. But as we have come here, God, to conduct the affairs of the town, God, we ask that you allow everything to be done decent and in order. And for that, Father, we say thank you. We count it all done in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And Commissioner Holmes, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start this meeting off with a moment of silent prayer for everybody's friend in this room, Fred Bartholomew. Thank you. Fred Bartholomew, as most people refer to as Mr. B, he is a true community leader. He had impact on everybody, I believe, in this room or anyone that he met within 5 minutes of meeting him. And what I want to comment more is how he built character, because he believed in everybody could be a better person if they just believed in themselves. And that character he instilled in almost everybody he met. And I'm going to give you, I can probably give you 20 examples, but I'll give you one example. In 1984, Vicki, which was my future wife, was teaching summer school at Princeton. So we were dating. I don't know how serious we were at that point, but we were dating. And so I would meet her for lunch, and she was in an outside classroom, mobile unit that was air conditioning. And I would go there, and Mr. Brooks would sit at her door, listen to her. And then Mr. Poplin, which was assistant principal, was sitting there listening to her. And finally, Mr. B was sitting there listening to her on very separate occasions. And I finally asked Mr. B what was going on here. He says, "Man, that's the best teacher I ever heard. He's getting those students ready to go to the next grade," because they were in summer school not because they wanted to be there, it's because they need some extra skills. He said, "What are you doing around here with?" And he said, "Well, so I'm dating Vicki." And he said, "You're what?" He says, "You got more character than I thought you did." But he advocated for her to become a school principal, and certainly inspired a lot in her life, and not only that, in others, and I'm sure everybody in this room could have examples. So this morning, April assisted in a proclamation, and I will read that proclamation. Whereas Mr. Frederick Leroy Bartholomew Jr., affectionately known as Mr. B, was a patriarch of the Princeton community, and whereas Mr. B joined the Princeton community in 1970 as the principal of Princeton School, Mr. B has served faithfully his family, church, and community. Mr. B was a member of the Princeton Baptist Church, and whereas Mr. B initiated many educational and academic programs for elementary, middle, and high school students during his 28 years as principal. Mr. B's 100 Book Club, the STEP program for educational performance, established the first awards banquet in the state to recognize academic accomplishments of high school students. Mr. B was instrumental in the establishment of one of the first 2 sports medicine programs with a national certified trainer in the Johnston County school system. And whereas Mr. B legacy at Princeton School is evident in the other, in many constructed facilities in the school, a new football field, renovation of the high school gym, new middle school gym, tennis courts, 2 new baseball fields, softball fields, lights, an irrigation system, and a new field house. And whereas Mr. B has held many leadership positions in the Carolina 1A Conference and served on the board of directors of the NCHSAA as well as the executive committee. And whereas Mr. B was elected to the Johnston County Board of Education in 2000 and served as chairman from 2002 to 2007. And whereas Mr. B was elected to the North Carolina School Board Association as an all-state board member. And whereas in 1999, Mr. Frederick Leroy Bartholomew Jr. was presented the Order of the Long Leaf Pine by Governor James B. Hunt. And whereas in 2014, Mr. Frederick Leroy Bartholomew Jr. was awarded the prestigious Golden Key Award for his many years of service and dedication to the town of Princeton. And whereas since 1970, Mr. Frederick Leroy Bartholomew was a staple of the Princeton community and leaves an impeccable legacy for his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And whereas the town of Princeton will mourn the loss of Mr. Frederick Leroy Bartholomew Jr. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Donald D. Raines, Mayor of the town of Princeton, along with the Princeton Board of Commissioners, do hereby deem August the 1st, 2022, Mr. Frederick Leroy Bartholomew Day, and lower the flags in the town property to fly at half-mast now until the funeral service in memory of one of the greatest patriarchs of the town of Princeton. Signed, Donald D. Raines, attested by April Williamson, town clerk. And the only other comment I have, we're wishing our neighbor city, town of Kenly, has a lot of difficulties with their town government, and whatever we can do to assist Kenly in this situation until all those issues are resolved, we wish them well. And we do not want any local government in Johnston County or within our arm's length to be going under the stress they're going through. But we're there to support them and to give them assistance in police and town administration. So somebody may have more comments they want to add tonight. I'll leave that up to you.
I just wanted to jump in on the Mr. B proclamation. I appreciate your work on that, and that was very well deserved. Mr. B was a true pillar of the community. Came to us via Warren County, where he met Harvey Brooks, and where he brought Harvey Brooks to Princeton to start the football program. So he was instrumental not only in all the upgrades we got, but actually the actual first team and first coach we ever had. Mr. B was a strong leader, and I went to school K through 12. He was my principal, and went to college and came back and was a teacher for him for about 7 or 8 years. And he was sorely missed. They don't make them like that anymore. I see a lot of principals in education now who, drive a distance to their job. He builds a house across the street. I jokingly said it was the parsonage, because he was right there next to it. And it was his school, and it was not a job to him. That's what his life was about. And if you had a beef with Mr. B and you didn't agree with what he said, you could go away from it knowing that whatever decision he made, it wasn't for his betterment, but he thought that was the best decision for Princeton, the school and the community. So anyway, thank you for those words, and just wanted to add that to it.
I would like to say something about Mr. B. Most certainly that I consider Mr. B to be my friend, and we had an awkward first beginning because he told me, I think I was in the maybe the 5th or 6th grade, that he was going to become my best friend, and that he wasn't trying to make a friendship, he was trying to make a point. And I thought to myself, trying to be a little smart kid, I said, well, I am going to be your best friend. And that old guy turned out that he got me, that he did make me my best friend. If some of you will remember that those that were on the board whenever we gave him an award here, that I mentioned the fact that once he told me that he would suspend me for so long a period that I would need a new class schedule because I wouldn't be able to remember what the other one was. And the type of friendship that we had, I said, all right, then, Mr. B, now, you don't need to do that. He is the reason that I continue to serve on the board. I had originally had a plan in mind that I would only serve a few terms, but we had a conversation several years ago, and after that conversation, that I've continued to serve, and it is because of his wisdom that I follow the wisdom that he gave. He was a man that took chances. That I say again, I'm not a politician, but the first political thing that I ever did in high school, that we used to, Princeton had one queen, and many of the African Americans students there thought that we would never be able to have a queen because of us not having the votes to really nominate one, and that we asked Mr. B to let us have a queen also, and he gave it some thought, and there is no doubt in my mind that the man probably took some heat for it, but he did allow us to do that, and one of the reasons that he told the student body that he did it, he said, this won't always be needed, but it is needed now. So that's the kind of insight that this man had.
Yeah, I think just as you say, reflections on Mr. B. When I came to Princeton, probably about 20 years ago, I met Rick, his son, and Rick and I coached together. And then when I finally met Mr. B, he was that guy that was very instrumental in me becoming being in the school system. He tried to push me to come here to Princeton, but when I told him I was in Wilson, he was like, okay. He was happy about that, and even with my decision to get on the board for the commissioners here, he told me, he said, son, he said, you don't make a difference. And like you said, he was a chance taker, and but one thing I will say, he stood for right and very much the equality for all people. So that's going to be missed. And like Mike, like you said, he was a strong pillar in this town.
Thank you, and I'll also offer a moment of silent prayer for the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. And Michael Holmes may make a comment later, or the chief, but, about Wayne County Sheriff's Department. Thank you. Mike, you know.
I don't have a lot of information, I just know that there was 3 deputies that were shot today. That's about all I really want to say, because none of it's confirmed, other than there was 3 shot trying to serve papers on the man. And the outcome doesn't look very good for a few of them. But, that's all I can really say at this time.
Just to add to that, from my understanding, after talking to a few of my law enforcement partners, they mentioned that they were trying to serve an involuntary commitment. It's very common and practical in law enforcement. We do it all the time here. And from what I understand, and I can't confirm any of this as well, but I pretty much have an inside circle of what's going on. The suspect pretty much just brandished a weapon and started shooting. I know 2 of the deputies were airlifted and 1 was transported to Wayne Memorial. I think 2 of them went to Biden and Greenville, and I think the one that was in at Wayne Memorial UNC Healthcare, they actually were transporting them to Greenville as well. I don't know what type of condition they're in. From what I understand, it was serious. I don't know if it's critical at this point. From what I understand, there was a gunshot to the head. I don't know what area. I don't know if it was, direct. I'm not really sure. But at this point, there's, last my understanding, a few hours ago, he was barricaded. The suspect was barricaded in the residence, and Johnston County Sheriff's Office, I believe, responded. Lenore County Sheriff's Office, Goldsboro PD, Highway Patrol, and several other agencies are on the scene. So I don't know what the status is right now, but that was the information I received earlier.
Continue to keep Wayne County Sheriff's Department in your prayers.
I wanted to say something. I appreciate the moment of silence, and Lee knows, but nobody else does. One of those deputies is one of my family members. I don't want to say his name because the meeting's public, but it's someone that I'm fairly close to.
Sorry about that.
But he was not the one shot in the head.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for your personal observation. Any other comments? Hopefully our agenda is fairly short and we won't be here long. I truly feel Wednesday night would be a celebration of life, and that's the way I want to look at it from Mr. B. So I hope there'll be a little bit of joy in that celebration of life.
A life well lived.
Yep. Is there a motion to adopt our agenda?
There is.
Second to that motion? Motion made by Commissioner Robinson, second by Commissioner Holmes. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Motion, all opposed, motion is unanimous. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
There is.
Motion made by Commissioner Robinson, seconded by Commissioner Holmes. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Persons to be heard. Sir, do you? Marla, you?
Are you ready for me?
Mm-hmm. I don't think you need an introduction.
Well, not everybody knows me. Hey, good evening. I'm Marla, TRC Engineering, your Community Resource Specialist. And I just came to bring you a couple of updates. The South Pine Street project is still in the permitting process, and we have made contact with the Army Corps of Engineers. But there's another leg of the permitting that factors in because of the Neuse River basin connection through DEQ. So those have to coordinate together. So Tyler's wanted me to tell you that they're working through that process, and they're putting every effort into getting the project released for bid and constructed as soon as possible. Also, you were awarded a strap grant, you know that? I think it was in your packet, because there's a resolution to authorize Michael to accept it on your behalf. And if you do accept it, we would like to present you with an agreement to do the engineering work for it. But the strap grant only funds your vegetative removal, and there's also some work that needs to be done to remove some other debris and to restore the banks alongside the wastewater treatment plant, which we prepared a grant application to Johnston County on behalf of the town for that. So our recommendation is that you wait and adopt our proposal to do both phases of the project, because that would save you on engineering fees and on contract fees for mobilization and some other things if it was together. I think you have a fairly good chance of getting that money from Johnston County, and you would still be able to meet your strap grant timelines if you wait until your September and or October meeting. Maybe in September, if you're willing, you could approve the contract contingent upon award from Johnston County in September, or you could wait till October meeting. I have sent a draft of it to Mr. King, but it's not ready for you to look at this point because we have to update some dates in it. And the other thing I wanted to bring to you is, I think the mayor got a Golden Leaf email the last week or so about a site program that they have for industrial sites, and it's a 3-phase grant process. You can apply for site investigation, site due diligence, and site development. And I think Princeton should seriously consider a site investigation phase of that application process. I did a webinar on that process today, and they intend to only fund one site investigation grant per county. So I think that and you need county approval or recommendation, concurrence that you're a good candidate for the grant. But the biggest thing is due September the 19th. And so I think the first step would be contacting Chris Johnson and seeing if he would support the town applying for this grant. And so it's not money, it's services. They send in a consultant that the Golden Leaf hires to evaluate your water and sewer capability, your future plans, your zoning, and the GIS maps to see if you have sites that could be suitable for future industrial development. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention and see if you were interested in starting the process of.
Is there a cost to apply for that?
No.
And on the strap grant, did it say how much it was? I didn't really be saw
It
that.
is in the neighborhood of $260,000,
Okay.
which will clean out from the bridge trestle parallel to Railroad Street, Railroad Mill Road, all the way to the county line.
The one that
down.
blew out
Yes.
in the storm?
Yes, from there all the way past the treatment plant to the county line.
Okay, well, while you're on that subject, if you want to pull, it's not numbered, but it's the one that's highlighted, resolution authorizing, so under number 6, and to vote on that item. Is resolution authorizing town administrator to sign a legal binding contract in receipt of the straight-up grant. I don't think there's anything, we can't start construction until we know what the final project's gonna be.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we have a copy of
I
that.
don't have a copy of it.
It was hard to find, but it's this one.
It's got the third to last document.
Page, the last page, yeah.
Is it added after?
It was added after,
Okay.
but it is included. Oh, yeah.
It's third from the end of mine.
I didn't put them on the desk. They didn't come.
If you want to read it, Michael, or?
Yeah, I'll read it for you. Be it resolved that the Princeton Board of Commissioners do hereby authorize Town Administrator Michael King to sign the legal binding contract for the STRAP grant. The STRAP grant is funded through the North Carolina Department of Ag and Commerce, Consumer Services Division, and Soil and Water Conservation. Princeton Board of Commissioners do hereby authorize and direct Town Administrator Michael King to sign all necessary documentation and contract to validate the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services STRAP grant, wherewith and on behalf of the Town of Princeton, North Carolina, resolved this first day of August 2022. And then there's a signature block for the mayor and town clerk.
Any discussion? Not?
When did we awarded this? Was it recently? I mean, like how recent?
Back in May.
Okay. Is that the one, we got an email about it, right? Okay. I didn't remember it called a STRAP grant. I remember we got a grant to clean out the ditch, but I didn't know that's what it's called.
If there's no further discussion, is there a motion to approve?
There is.
Commissioner Martin made a motion, is there a second?
There is.
Second from Commissioner Robinson. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Do you want to talk about Jay Smith at this point, or you?
I can,
Okay.
but I'm ready. So the last thing.
You need to go home.
The last thing I wanted to tell you is that there appears to be a problem between J. Smith Civil and their subcontractor, Jimco Construction, related to payment. There are several payments due to Jimco that J. Smith Civil has not made, apparently. Our firm has processed all the payments, pay requests received from J. Smith Civil, and the town has incurred and paid all of those invoices. And Jimco contacted Tyrus Clayton today, asking for bond information to try to collect money. And I think they also contacted Mr. King. And at 5:29 and 5:30, Tyrus and Michael emailed each other, because I got copied on both of them, and they popped up at the same time. But the recommendation from Tyrus was to have Bob Spence review the contracts and the information received in the email from Jimco stating that they have not been paid, and take his recommendation to move from there. We personally have not ever had to do this.
Is there money left at the town in this project that we have not paid Jay Smith?
Yes, but they have also not submitted pay requests
Right.
for it. And there is also a final change order needs to be done. And there's a punch list of closeout items that need to be done that Jimco, understandably, they're not willing to complete at this time.
Is the amount that we have not paid them equal or greater or less than the amount owed to Jimco?
I do not know.
So I was wondering if it was a matter of Jay Smith being just slacking their request to get the funds from us to then pay them, or if they are in a little bit of financial trouble. And
I do not
Rob and Peter
know. I
don't know.
do not know what the case is, but I do know based on the contract that the money from the town has to go through J. Smith Civil.
Right, right.
And this email was sent to the board this afternoon about 4:30.
I saw it come through, but yeah.
I don't think we have a copy of the bond. Can you forward a copy to Bob Spence and to Michael King?
Yes. Do you have any other
We
questions for me?
Can we vote to hold their money until their payments are caught up?
We can,
Well, right now, they haven't requested any. So there's not any money to hold up, and then once they do submit a pay request, there's this contractual amount of time that you have to pay that request.
Yeah, but don't they have, do they have signed lien releases where they have, because I can tell you, they probably asked for it.
I do not know that. I do know that as far as their contract goes, they have run out of construction days, and they're into liquidated damages territory with their contract with the town, which is why we think that the attorney needs to get involved.
Yeah, because I think the attorney should probably tell us to hold the funding, don't pay anything until their subs are paid.
So is that the recommendation of,
The recommendation is to forward the contracts and bonds to the town attorney and with the email received today and follow his guidance.
And I might be wrong on this, but I think once they request the bond information, I think we have to give it to them.
Well, as a town administrator, I never dealt with this, and as an engineer, Tyrus has never dealt with this, so.
Now, I'm just saying from the contractor standpoint, I have had to deal with it, and when it's asked for, it has to be presented.
And it should be something that, with Bob looking at it, on behalf of the town, we should be reimbursed. The town could get reimbursed for him checking on that possibly, to make sure that we're covered.
Well, I'll get you everything you need, that you forward it and make sure that you
Okay. Yeah, I'll touch base with
let him know that
Bob
you
on it.
also want to recoup.
Yeah, I
But
sent him
the
an
bond
email today, told him
information
that.
should be public for them.
Yeah, I sent Bob an email this afternoon to let him know that more info would come tomorrow, but we can discuss some type of reimbursement too as well, as far as him doing his part to make sure we're protected.
One thing that I think we ought to look at on the bond information, not on this project per se, but from here out, do we need to start having a performance bond and a payment bond? So make sure that they are.
I think they're good, pay for
Do,
it.
okay, well, yeah, they should be entitled to the payment bond.
When the next payout is requested, is it possible to write the check so that Jimco is also a member, a party on that check, so that,
That I don't know, but by the time that happens, because there's a 30-day period that you have to process and pay a pay request, and I don't think one is imminent.
I will not sign a check without some third party being, with some assurance of a third party is being paid.
yeah, I think I kind of agree with the recommendation. Let's forward everything to the attorney and let him instruct us from there.
And because, I mean, that's the best and safest route to go.
Any other questions, Ron? I think Marla probably needs to go home.
I'm fine. I
You
mean,
fine?
if you got, any other
You
questions, I'll
don't-
answer them.
We know how to get up with you.
You probably need to be with your family, is what I'm trying to say.
But I will see some of you tomorrow. So if there's nothing else, I will go home, and if you think of anything between now and tomorrow, just ask me tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
All right. God-
Thank you.
Godspeed.
Keep us posted.
Okay. Item number 7 is public hearing. This is a request for a public hearing, right? It's not a public hearing.
It is a public hearing.
It is a public
It
hearing.
is a public hearing.
Okay, so we got to be here till 8:05 at least, right?
yeah, it is.
There is a request for a public hearing for Stacy Johnson rezoning petition and for the Church of God. And so if, April, if you would start, public hearing start at 7:35. We'll go over both of the items, and if there's questions, I don't think is anyone here prepared to speak for or against the The rezoning, okay. April, you ready?
The only thing I have, is it was advertised and sent to the neighbors, and actually, Michael held the, planning board meeting. And the planning board, did recommend to grant those.
So the first one with Stacy Johnson was a rezoning where he cut out a family cemetery where he had a death in the family. The property that he owns out on Massey Hope is not on the permitted use of tables for a family cemetery. So he had to rezone, cut out and rezone a portion for the family cemetery. That got approved with no discussion. And then the Church of God rezoning is the property with the billboard on it that they overlooked when they did the larger tract. They were supposed to do them both together, they just overlooked it, so they're petitioning to annex and rezone that one into town.
Okay, actually, this is the,
Is this the
zone,
large?
rezoning, the larger from the
So the large-
county.
Okay, so the next one's coming.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the large one was rezoned from county AR to town to allow for
C3.
C3 for that development. The one with the billboard will probably be next month. But they were supposed to go together. They overlooked the smaller tract.
Okay. Is there any questions pertaining to Stacy Johnson's petition or the Church of God?
Normally we get a planning board copy. Is that anywhere?
What, I'm sorry?
Normally we get a copy of where the planning board voted.
There is a letter that is in there. It's actually from Michael.
Right here is the planning board minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it. Just looked at, there we go.
It's new and improved.
That's right, yep.
Hearing no further comments, I will entertain the chief's report. Police chief.
Good evening. Got a few things that I want to go over. Lieutenant had brought a couple of things, well, one item to your attention while I was on vacation. But I want to make mention of two vital items, one of which is on the 29th of July on Friday. One of our officers was involved in a chase that resulted in one of the patrol vehicles suffering some damage. He was, just kind of give you a brief synopsis, he was traveling north on Pearl, and the suspect vehicle crossed the center line and made a straight path towards his vehicle, almost at a head-on collision. He was able to maneuver around, got behind the vehicle, attempted to stop the vehicle, made contact with communications, and the vehicle ended up turning into Deadwood, traveling through the grass around the back apartments and back out to the highway down Maxwell Road and then out in the county. So again, he contacted communications to let them know that at that point in time it was actually a chase that had ensued. From that point on, several law enforcement agencies were involved, the Highway Patrol, Wayne County Sheriff's Office at that point, when he was in Wayne County. The vehicle bypassed 3 sets of stop sticks, unfortunately. Did not hit either stop stick and somehow maneuvered around and hit the back of the town patrol vehicle. And he hit 4 other vehicles, from my understanding, 4 other law enforcement vehicles. I don't know if that includes Wayne County, what could have been Wayne County and the Highway Patrol. I without getting too far into the case, I can't do, but I will say that the suspect might have been under the influence. He was taken into custody, and at that point, he was charged with several charges, including eluding the police, and he's under a $250,000 bond. We did ask Jernigan if he wanted to, the officer, if he wanted to. He seeks some medical attention, and he said he was fine. So at this point, I contacted Michael and let him know what had transpired, and he also forwarded him the photos of the damaged vehicle as well as the information. I haven't yet received the report from the Highway Patrol yet. They were the ones that investigated the report, the accident, because it's not uploaded yet into the system, but I'm gonna try to retrieve that on tomorrow if possible. It was, it could have been ugly, could have been hit head on. Thank God for that, he was not. That was pretty much the gist of it. If you have any questions about it, I'll try to answer as much as I can without getting into the specifics of the case.
Did the accident with the squad car come in, that's where the person was apprehended, same place? I mean, was that, it all culminated at the same place?
From my understanding.
Was that, where did that happen? Was it in?
Well, I can say it was in Goldsboro.
Okay.
I can say that much. It was in the Goldsboro area, around 581. And generally, when you have a vehicle that's eluding the police, the communication will contact an agency close by that has stop sticks, and we do have stop sticks to deploy those stop sticks. And some of these suspects in fleeing vehicles, they're rather smart. They can dodge these stop sticks. And unfortunately, the way they were deployed by another agency, the town vehicle actually ran over the stop sticks, and two of the tires, which was on the passenger side, were deflated. So basically what the damage that was caused through the town vehicle was, I think, the rear damage, back bumper, probably part of the tail light, as well as the two tires. And I think it knocked the radar antenna down, so that's gonna have to be replaced as well. It wasn't one of the newer vehicles, it was one of the older vehicles. But it still suffered damage. Outside of that, there were two overdoses, recent ones. One that was from a few weeks ago from Dalewood. One of the officers responded to an overdose, which they ended up transporting that subject to the hospital. He was unconscious, and that was some charges were later filed, and some other evidence was found. He was definitely on some type of drug, and that drug has been sent off to be tested at the SPI, and we're waiting on those results to come back. So there was a second or additional overdose, and that was one that I actually responded to at the Handy Mart. But she was conscious. She had shallow breathing. From what she told me, she had obtained some drugs from Wayne County, technically. I don't know how truthful that is, but she lives in Wayne County, and she walked down here. But I say that to say this, that's like the second one we had in a couple weeks, but she wasn't to the point where she needed to be administered Narcan or anything like that. She was coherent, but she did need some medical attention. She was transported.
On that, I was going to ask you, last month, Lieutenant Toole told us about, we talked about Narcan, and it was brought up about training. They said that it would, everybody was up to speed on the training, and so I was wondering how, if we've made any progress to getting our officers trained.
Well, we're still waiting because certain certain entities and instructors have to teach that class.
Mhm.
So, I'm waiting on them basically.
Who is it that does it? How long is it the class?
Technically, EMS can do it, one of the trainers can do it. That's who we would get to train our officers, and it won't, honestly, doesn't take long. It's not like an 8-hour class or anything like that, just long enough to get through, basically the introduction of it, how you administer it, and then do a practical. It's not like they have to take a state exam or anything like that, but just a matter of waiting because they switch out and rotate so much. And I might have to send them to Smithfield to get it done. I might have someone from Smithfield come out here and do it, but hopefully I can get it done in-house.
So like the EMS people that work here aren't qualified to teach it?
I would deal with the director. I wouldn't say they're not qualified, but I communicate with the director, which is Josh, and then he would designate a certain person to administer the test or administer the training. That way, I don't bypass him and go straight to them, trying to stay within protocol. But we'll try to get it done as soon as possible.
A question, and I'm just curious, at our local park, how much drug activity have we caught there, either just by passing by or periodically reviewing the video cameras?
Well, not a lot, and keep in mind, there's a lot of video to view, so normally we don't go all the way back and view all the footage. If we had some complaints coming from the park that we need to address, or, if one of the officers out there, then, we'll address it. And we have had a few instances where the officer did get some intel that there was some activity out there, and we went out there and addressed it. There wasn't any major arrest made or anything like that, but younger kids for the most part. But not any frequent or major activity out there that we are aware of.
And I think, my last question, I know at one point we were talking about a active shooter training. How are we looking on that?
Well, Michael and I had talked about that, and I did want to briefly discuss that. That's something that he and I have been talking about, when we talked about some of the safety measures. We do want to do some training here in the town hall, but it's not a do real quick type training. It takes coordination, and it also takes, I'm trying to draft this active shooter policy just for the town hall. And in that policy, it will basically be a direction, instruction, where you go, what are you supposed to do, what rooms you're supposed to, to walk in, or, where you're supposed to, if you're supposed to conceal yourself. It just gets into a lot of those specifics, and I know we're on the air, so I don't want to get into any specifics, but it will give you instruction on where you go and what you do. And there's several different scenarios of what can happen if an active shooter walks in the door. It could be one sitting down and gets disgruntled. It can be one that walks in and just, starts shooting at random. So it can happen at any given time. But there is a national standard and a set of guidelines that are that most agencies mirror by, and that's the FBI's active shooting critical incident guidelines. And that's what I'm consulting with them, and also some other agencies to look at their policies, and then just kind of somewhat mirror ours after that. But it's going to have to be customized just for this building. But it will hopefully involve some some floor plans and things like that, because I want to put a nice package together so you guys would be able to read it and view it and understand what we're going to be doing, what it all entails, and what your role would be in the event that something like that happens. And then possibly getting some of the other agencies involved in it. I might have to talk to the sheriff's office, and then possibly involving EMS, because when you do these, it's just not a matter of, okay, let's just do a mock play. You have to go through the entire scenario, so that means if, God forbid, one of you guys get hurt, or ladies, we need to be able to have an incident command system set up. We also need to have a staging area. We also need to make sure someone gets medical attention and, you know, set up for media, things like that. So, you know, it's not an extremely large scale like a school active shooting, but, you know, we need to do it right. Because the last thing you want is to just kind of throw something together and then there's still a lot of gaps and gray areas as to what to do and how to approach the situation. So, you know, that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm hoping, and don't hold me to this, but I'm hoping the next couple of months, you know, we'll have something rather tentative we can put together and be close to finishing. And the closer I get to it, Michael and I will communicate and try to come up with a good timeline. We want to do it as soon as possible, but we want to make sure we cover everything that we can, just to make sure everyone's safe, make sure the community's safe. And so, you know, everyone in this town hall, you know, will know how to react. Because, and Mr. Martin, you know, he can definitely agree with this, but in the event something like that happens, it's gonna be pandemonium. People are gonna react different. People are gonna scatter, and they don't know what to do. What they practice is gonna go left. It's gonna be different than what you know. And that's basically how most of the active shooters have went. And it's just unfortunate because you cannot change second nature or human nature. They're gonna react the way they're gonna react. But you try to have some type of blueprint of what and how you're gonna deal with this issue of an active shooter when it happens. So that's kind of where we are. And that's really what I want to focus on. But aside from that, you know, we were looking at some, you know, possible panic, you know, devices and things like that, and where to place them. And so, you know, just some things we get into. But I'll have all of that, you know, in that actual model when we get ready to present.
And just to piggyback off of what the chief said, that when it was mentioned last month that I was thinking, I said, well, doing that is a big deal. Same thing you said, that is not operation that we do on our own, because you have to have the other people who are going to be involved from other agencies, and that we really can't do anything and say, well, we're just gonna ignore that portion. We'll do this because you can't do it like that, because it's got to be from start to finish. And one of the things that we have to realize is that in the event that anything do happen, someone is going to do an after action review as to what our plan was. So it can't be anything that's shoddy.
And then the media will definitely get involved, and that's when you get into the whole national and press conferences and things like that. And I've already seen, you know, via media, television, how one particular agency was nothing but negative comments about it, how they reacted. So, you know, post-action, you know, review, you know, post-action plans, and, you know, you have to go over those, and you don't want the media to tear it apart and find everything wrong with it, because I'm gonna look bad, the town's gonna look bad, and it's just not gonna be a good look. So I'm trying to avoid that and make sure that we get everything involved. And like Mr. Martin said, and I'll leave it alone, we can't leave out other agencies, because if that was to happen, God forbid, we have and need other agencies. We need their assistance, because sometimes, you know, if you got a hostage situation, anything, you might need a SWAT team, you might need to switch out officers, people need to be relieved. It could be long and drawn out. Hopefully don't get to that, but those are just some of the things that can happen. So it's a lot involved, you know. But
And we do have to realize that in our city, the number of officers that are actually on duty 99.9% of the time. And you may or may not be, or depend on the circumstance. That could be one of your casualties. And So somebody's gonna have to know something, because if you don't, you're just gonna have chaos.
This is to be continued.
There are no questions, just
I just wanted to follow up on the first thing we talked about, the chase. What is our like protocol? Do we have SOP dealing with chases? How long can we chase? How fast? What's the rules on that?
well, basically there's 100-mile-an-hour speed limit as far as how fast you can go to catch that vehicle. Second, it depends on conditions, the environment, traffic. You have to make sure you communicate with communications, call all those variations of elements in, and make sure they know. You gotta make sure that the roads are safe, and it depends on the totality of the situation. So if you have someone that stole some gum out of the store, you're not going to chase that vehicle for something like that. That's a misdemeanor. But when it involves a more, severe type of, crime, such as what we had the other night, and I'll give you one more example, and this was several years ago. I myself was involved in this particular chase, but there was a vehicle that backed up and tried to hit a deputy, a Johnson County deputy, with his car. And I was called, and then, when I threw out the stop sticks and deployed those, he went around and we didn't stop the car until we got to Goldsboro. So I guess what I'm saying is there is a policy that we have that the board adopted and approved, and it stipulates all those things in there, and mainly just recognizing that there is a cutoff speed, and also you have to recognize the conditions that you're driving in, and make sure that you deem it safe. We don't want to put anybody's life in danger while we're trying to chase this vehicle, but we don't want to cause any other injuries by that vehicle just traveling down the road. And there have been some instances where the vehicle is, they will stand down and discontinue the chase, depending on the circumstance.
And so as far as this one goes, we feel like everything.
Whoa, you can't go there.
Well, is there?
You can't go there.
Well, let me ask this: do you follow up on the situation so to make sure that all those criteria were met?
I will say this: when I read the report, all the criteria was met.
Okay.
But keep in mind, this is an active investigation
Sure.
that involves several agencies, and I want to give you as much information as I can, but I can't get too specific because he just had his first appearance.
Mhm.
And I definitely don't want to release any information that could compromise the
Okay.
city. But I'm still reviewing it. But I was pulled away quite a few times today. But I read all the reports, and I'm still reading, and I'm still communicating with other entities like the DA's office, Highway Patrol, Wayne County Sheriff's Office, everybody that was involved.
Okay.
Anybody else? The next and last thing was the off-duty program. I know the lieutenant had made mention of it, and he did speak about it. And I kind of want to just reemphasize what he discussed, and also if you have any questions, we'll discuss that too. But as it stands right now, we have an off-duty policy that the board approved. And that was some time ago, effective 2017 to be exact, December 11th. But off-duty management is a company that a lot of agencies use, and it's not specifically for off-duty. They also have, other platforms such as incident command, web-based intel, and software that the department can use, or the officers can use, and it's used for incident command systems. And if we have an event like a parade, or if we have something going on like a major event, and we don't want to tie up and drain the 911 system with, with the communication, the officers can just go online, and then they can communicate. We can place them in certain areas, tell them where they need to be at. We can stage in certain places, And you can use it, you know, for that particular reason. We can track officers as far as this is where they're supposed to be. And it won't tie up communications, you know, when you're dealing with something like that. As far as the off-duty, that's specifically for the town of Princeton. While we don't have any off-duty right now, we went ahead and we were looking at this particular program because it will be a good benefit whenever the time comes and the town grows and we can use off-duty. And basically what they do, or how it works is, you know, we take our policy, you know, we put it before the board and we made some changes and then you approve it. We send that policy to them so they can craft an actual, somewhat of another policy or contract that has all the details in it concerning, you know, what we want in there, what we don't want in there, and then that's after allowing the town attorney, Bob Spence, to view it. And if there's anything in that particular contract that he doesn't like, he can take it out, we can discuss it, we can add, we can amend it, whatever we need to do. But as far as, I think one of the questions that came up was, well, the off-duty, whether it be in Princeton or other places, that we wouldn't have off-duty in any other jurisdiction, because you really can't go in another jurisdiction other than mule days. And that's under a mutual aid agreement with Benson when that happens one time a year. But other than that, you know, we don't do off-duty anywhere else. So that would be just for here. That was one question that came up. And I think the second one was whether or not we will be held harmless for anything that will come up concerning an officer regarding insurance. So I took the liberty to print these off. You look where the check mark is and read under 8.6 indemnity, section B, and it will actually state exactly what I just mentioned about holding the department harmless. And I'll read it. I know you can, you know, I know you have it in front of the doc, but I'll read it. Indemnification to fullest extent permitted by law, contractor will defend, indemnify, and hold harmless TOPP and its officers, officials, and employees from and against any third-party claims arising directly from or caused by the willful misconduct, negligent acts, errors, or omissions by the contractor being off-duty, its employees, agents, or subcontractors in the performance of this agreement, including injuries, death, or disease to persons or damage to property. Contractor's indemnification obligation herein shall not arise with the sole negligence or willful act or omission of the indemnified party is the cause of such claims. So that in itself will not hold the town harmless of anything that might arise during the officer's off-duty. They have a certificate of insurance that's comparable to the highest rate of the state of North Carolina, and their workers' comp pays about 2/3 of the officer's wages, which is about 66%, if I'm not mistaken. And so as far as the vehicle being covered in the event that the officer is involved in an incident and it's involved in, and the car is involved with that, depending on the totality of the circumstances, it could be included in the insurance, you know, or damages or replacement. It depends on the situation. The officers are covered if something happens to them while they're working off duty, and all of that is under off-duty management. They pretty much cover all the details, and the good thing about this particular company is if there's some items, if there's a crime scene that evidence has to be retrieved from that crime scene, or if there's pictures that have to be taken, any pictures that's taken you know, at the scene will be uploaded into their system. And when it's uploaded into their system, then we can go back and we can retrieve all that, and we won't have to worry about discovery or anything like that, or the officer's phone being taken or anything like that. They assume all the responsibility for that particular platform. So, you know, those are some of the perks to it. And again, you know, it doesn't cost the town any money. it's not, there's not any, lack of benefit to the town. And, of course, I'll get Bob Spence to take a look at it, but basically, we can't move forward until, the actual policy is, the changes that I've highlighted are made, and then they'll take it and they'll craft a whole report. So I can take that and I can sit down with Bob Spence and have him take a look at it, and we can just go over all the things that might be of any concern there.
I think one question that we had as a board, so how do they make their money?
Well, basically depending on, I guess you could say the rate, it could be $5, to $7 that is attached to our rate. And that's how they get paid on that, which is nothing less than what any other agency does. So, if our rate is $30, it might be, just say $35, don't quote me on that, but it just depends on what the ending rate is. It might be $35, so they'll get $5, which is not a whole lot, and then, of course, the officer will get paid the $30. And $30 is pretty good. It's not a whole lot compared to what a lot of other agencies further west are charging, but, that's not bad. That's how they make their actual money.
Excuse me to interrupt. It is now 8:07. The public hearing is now closed.
So that's how they make their money.
So it would actually cost the citizens here more than if you do go in this way versus if they came now and just wanted someone, because they just have to pay what?
There is a difference. That's a good point. The way the policy was before, if someone says, hey, I just want someone to see if they can cover this area. I think that the whole purpose of off-duty is they take all the, all the work off of the officer or the chief and the staff, versus you having to compile this, and then if somebody get hurt, then you don't have to worry about the officer being off-duty, and then the town have to assume the responsibility of paying this officer that's off-duty, that's not technically working. So it just kind of takes a lot of the liability off the town. And also they provide 1099s for the officers versus having to include that in the town's payroll.
Now one of the biggest issues that I have with it is the fact whenever you started talking about that they would hold evidence if it were, even if it's just video evidence, and that I'm thinking that would violate the chain of evidence, because this agency is a company and is not a law enforcement agency.
That's true, and we've had that conversation with attorneys, and also there's been a lot of sit downs with the
What does the district attorney think about it? Because that's the main thing that I'm concerned about.
Well,
what does the district attorney think?
I haven't talked to Susan about it, which I will. We were talking to some of the attorneys that were at the conference that were aside from the off-duty management. So you've got basically attorneys that work for police departments that are not working for off-duty, and we were having a conversation about that very same thing. And when you get into, let's just say, evidential, items that we would normally have custody of, being it was off-duty, and let's just say if it was a photograph, it was something that took place at the scene. Basically, I think where I'm going is, if there was any information that was offered right there at the scene that needed to be retrieved, or if they wanted to get record of it, you've got a platform that you can retrieve a lot of that information from. Mainly, like if there was anything that took place there and off-duty management was aware of it and they jotted down some information regarding what happened at that scene, then anything that was retrieved information-wise based on what the officer's actions were, that's the information that would be retrieved in their system, and that's the information that would be available to us. Now, as far as
And,
photographs,
and now I'm thinking that the chain of evidence is broken.
Right.
Broken at that point.
It's-
So,
questionable.
but let me say this.
I know exactly where you're going though.
Yeah, because we are going, I would not recommend to the
Right.
board that they do anything until you get the blessings of
Oh,
the,
absolutely.
the blessings of the district attorney.
And that's fair enough, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I don't have no problem with that, and you have a valid point, and I'll be happy to discuss it with Susan. And if, she gives me a blessing on it, then, I'll definitely, bring it back before you and we'll discuss.
Because they, and let me just say this one other thing that, that we talked about when Lieutenant Toole was here, that whenever someone hires a law enforcement agency or an officer to work a function or party or whatever it is, that person that they hire is a law enforcement officer that enforces violations of criminal statute, not rules or regulations,
Correct.
but only law enforcement stuff. And so whenever you start using private companies, that I want to make sure that that we as a board, that we aren't giving away our ability to know what is going on to a private company, because even if this company says that they will that they will defend or whatever, if that officer gets sued, that the people may sue them too, but they're going for who they know has the deepest pockets. And last time I checked, I believe that be us.
Well, I don't know if we got deeper pockets than this
Yeah.
guy, but
You
yeah,
got
the
deep
fact,
enough
the
pockets.
fact that it says Princeton right here, that's
Yeah.
what they're coming for.
Oh, yeah.
And that's fair enough. I'm not gonna disagree with you with that at all. And, I will address those things, and I'll be happy to, let you know my findings after I do so.
Okay.
Is there anybody else in the county that's using this company?
I cannot confirm that. I know of quite a few others in other counties that are, but I can't confirm whether, places like Clayton, and I don't think the sheriff's office is using it. Sheriff is a little different in regards to things like
Can you give me some examples of some
that.
towns
Towns,
or counties?
they will probably be in the Piedmont area, I think Greensboro, off the top of my head, I believe, Charlotte. And there's also some small agencies. I want to say either Leland or Swansboro, one of them, that's comparable in size.
If Greensboro certainly has attorneys on their staff.
Oh, absolutely.
But just get us some more guidance at the next meeting, and
Sure.
we'll move forward if it's warranted.
Be happy to. Is there, and I'll let you know what my findings are. Is there anything else, concerning anything I went over? That was quite a bit.
Thank you. Okay, we had a public hearing that closed about 8 minutes ago for the rezoning of 2428 Massacult Road for a private cemetery, and a rezoning request for a parcel for the Church of God at 6085 Highway 70 East. Hearing no objections to the request at the public hearing, is there a motion to adopt petition A and B?
There it is.
So there are two petitions. Motion has been made by Commissioner Robinson. Is there a second?
There is.
Second been made by Commissioner Martin. No further questions. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then there is a review for adoption, and I'll turn this over to April for some additional land at the Church of God.
To skip, Chad, do you want me to go?
I'm sorry, Chad, go ahead. I'm
Hey,
moving too fast.
I ain't gonna hold you up, but could we find one more? And that, tonight, first thing is, as you can see in the notes here, we've been cleaning out a few storm drains downtown, some of the older storm drains downtown, cleaning the debris out of them. And I hope this month, as time allows, to get the rest of them. We have 4 places that we've had to cut out to access, utility lines for water leaks in the road. I plan to get them patched this month, all 4 places, and there's a few places I want to cut out and patch as well. A few being in a few subdivisions around town that's kind of got bad. Let's see. Other than that, the Public Works Department is we have been asked to do the Christmas party this year, and the date scheduled for the Christmas party will be Friday, December 9th. Y'all check y'all's calendars and see if everything's fine with that. Other than that, that's all I have. Do I have any questions, concerns? Or?
How much rain was over the weekend?
Saturday we got 1.5 inches, and last Thursday I think we got a 1/2 inch, and all about 2 inches last week.
What yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah, that's when we got. Yeah, that's when we got the 1.5 inches yesterday. Yeah, I don't know why I said Saturday.
And no real effect on the plant.
Everything seemed to be fine.
I wanted to commend Bobby Green. I saw him riding around, checking everything out, being interested. And
Oh yeah.
he was, and he also said that all our new work downtown seemed to be working. Everything's
yeah.
flowing like it should.
Yeah, it does, man. Like I said, the last prior rainstorms, I've come in, everything seems to be working perfect. There is one spot where it was patched around a storm drain that's starting to, it's already got a sinkhole in the asphalt there, and we're gonna try to get that added to the punch list, but we don't know what's gonna happen with that, so. But, yeah, I think they should address that whenever they come back or whatever. So, but yeah, as far as everything else, everything was perfect.
Any more questions?
And just to follow up with Chad, he and I took a webinar class this week with the North Carolina League of Municipality for distressed public utilities, what it means for the utilities, and he and I completed that. It was about an 1.5 hour class, and for what it's worth, we got a credit and a certificate. It was a little interesting, but it was mainly what causes that type of situation to happen, age of the complex, weather, could be a few different things, but no answer on how to fix it. But it was,
It shows you how it really happens.
but we did do the class to see if it would benefit us, but it was education.
Our, whenever we, decided last meeting that we would designate ourselves as a distress system, did we actually ever send anything out to the public on that?
We, to my knowledge, we did not. Did we send anything, April, do you know of?
No.
I don't think we did. I'll check and see. I don't think there's a requirement that has to be sent out.
Well, not so much requirement, but I think the citizens
Yeah.
should Should know that.
Unfortunately, putting it on our town webpage is about as much as we can do.
Yeah,
You could send it to
yeah.
to various news media, but it's no guarantee that they're gonna do anything.
But couldn't we just do it in a mailing?
General mailing to the citizens?
Yeah,
We could,
I mean,
we could probably
that-
we
yeah.
probably put it on our utility bill, Lee. Is there a spot we can add a statement or anything on those that you know of, small? We can put it on the website for sure.
Okay.
We'll be glad to do that tomorrow and make a statement on it.
Okay.
That way it will be visible for the public.
But define while we're
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I'll turn it back over to April.
Received the, request for annexation, and this is the one that they, that small lot, the 2.45 acres. And, so what I did is I've got the, certificate of sufficiency, and this is saying that the petition included the meets and bounds. The petition included the names and addresses of all owners, which is just the Church of God. The petition included the signature. The nearest point of proposed satellite corporate limits is no more than 3 miles from the primary corporate limits of Princeton. No point proposed satellite corporate limit is closer to any other municipality. And the satellite area is situated to where the town of Princeton will be able to provide the same services as the primary limits. The extent of the proposed satellite area is its entirety. It's not separated, so it is one unit. And the town of Princeton is exempt from, and I put you a copy in there to where we do not have to follow the, what's it called, the,
Continuous.
right,
uh,
the 10%, for the, and it's General Statute 160A, and there is a copy in there that lists all the towns were exempt from that. And with that, that proved that everything meets the guidelines for annexation. And the next thing would be to adopt a resolution to hold a public hearing for the annexation, and that would be on our September 12th meeting. The September 5th is a holiday, so we will not have a meeting. So we'll be on the 12th. So we just need to have a motion to have a public hearing on the 12th.
So now, to do this, is it just a regular vote, or is this the quasi?
That is a good question.
eh,
As far as the annexation, that is
That's not a founding of fact.
no,
It's just a
Okay.
regular.
Right.
Okay.
It is a public meeting, that,
No, but I'm talking about
Public
this step here.
no.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
just, because you adopted last meeting for me to do the investigation
Okay,
for the annexation, and then the next step is to adopt the resolution
okay.
for the public hearing.
Okay.
There's-
is there a motion?
Yes, there is, and that is part of the reason that I asked, because I was gonna make a motion, I wanted to make sure that I did it properly. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I would make the motion that we approve
Set the public hearing.
and set the public hearing for September the
12.
12th.
Is there a second by Commissioner Rose? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion is unanimous. Other business?
You didn't mention the Pine Level agreement.
That is just
Well,
a,
oh, was that on? was
that
part
is
of the-
just acknowledgement that they signed the same resolution we did. So we will look into how to investigate, how to move forward on, how do we look at an interlocal agreement, what the terms are, and our engineering firm will work on that. Okay. Town administrators report.
Some of this we've discussed, so I'm just gonna kind of go through some of the highlights. NCDOT has contacted me with 3 roads that will be resurfaced between August of this year and December of next year. Baker's Chapel, Old Rock Quarry, and Martin Livestock. We did receive a private donation, or private contribution of $25,000 to put toward the downtown community center project. Our popsicles in the park, thanks to the ladies and the PD, utility guys, fire department that all participated. We did that on July 14th. We had about 200 citizens come out, and they really enjoyed that. As far as with the community center, I have met with the senior program director, Neil Davis, and my kids club director, Sarah Sorosky, about possibly partnering with them in the community center. And in doing so, there could be grants or some funding through the county to assist with that. I'm going to skip down to the website. We are in the process of updating our phone system and our website. We've had 4 quotes. One we rejected. It was a little out of our budget. The website is being updated, and Commissioner Rose is going to assist with some drone footage of that with the town, put on the website.
Tell them how much that's gonna cost us too.
That's going to cost nothing. But I will say the other quotes we did get, we did reach out to some people to do some quotes, and they were anywhere from $500 to $1,500 to do that. And our website is dated. Marla was in the process of updating it. There is no cost other than the yearly domain service. And the phones, the ladies are going to be deciding soon on which phone system they like. I like either one, so I kind of left it up to them. But those are around the $6,000 range to set up new phones. The ones we've got are very dated, cracked, at least the screens you can't see. The ones we're going to are more of a touch screen type system. Reminder of our meeting tomorrow at the United Methodist Church. Should have about 40 roughly in attendance. Got a couple speakers to talk about downtown development. And at the end of this month, I will be in the office, but I will be in a online class with the School of Government per you guys' requirement, and that will run the 29th of August through September the 2nd. That is a finance class, and it is an 8:30 to 4:30 class, and those hours are subject to change. I met with 2 guys with NCDIT this past week, Department of Information Technology, about broadband and Wi-Fi. I kind of give the mayor an update on that. It's kind of a dead period now as far as grants. They won't come back up until next year, but they're county-based. County applies, and then we go ask county for a portion of those funds. And the 3 grants can range from $380 million to $400 million to $90 million, depending on which one the county gets. That we could get part of that for extending services around town. I did get a cost estimate finally from one architect on the community center from Dunn and Dalton. I just got that this afternoon, so I did not get time to put it in the packet, but their estimated cost was $2.5 million, and I have that if you guys want to look at it. And some of you have asked about the old water tank. That is something Bob Spence is handling with the purchasers of that property. He's gonna write a letter on behalf of the town stating that we do not own it, we have no responsibility of it. Someone is interested in purchasing that property, and they just need that clarification for the bank. Don't know why, but they have asked for a letter from the town just stating that we are not making them take it down and we are not responsible for it. And then on the contribution that we did get for the community center, that downtown area, that was from Deacon Jones Auto Group and Ken Jones. We appreciate that. I believe that is all I've got for you guys. Yeah, that's it.
And a presentation will probably be done at a later date.
Yeah, we will do a presentation when Ken's available. And then tomorrow at our luncheon, I think I sent an email, but I would request that you guys would sit at separate tables just so it does not look like we were having a meeting or anything like that. There will be catered meal with Parkside. We have some speakers, and we'll have some goodie bags to send home with you guys and all the visitors. So,
And that means what time?
that would be start at 12 o'clock, and depending on the speaker's time, it could end around 1:15, 1:30. We dedicated about 30 minutes for lunch, and then we've got 3 speakers that'll come in. One is the Triangle East Chamber of Commerce President, Maureen McKinnis, the Bruce Naglin with the Department of Commerce, and then Carly Rye is with Country Superstars 102.3, who does a lot with the chamber in Johnston County and Wayne County and part of Wade County. Who's just going to give us ideas, and all of them are going to give us ideas and just ways that we can work together to kind of develop the downtown area. So.
And Mike has warned me on 2 separate occasions that gentlemen do not have to wear ties.
Yes, I'm not wearing a tie tomorrow, so you do not have to wear a tie if you do not want to. But County Manager Rick Hester should be in attendance with a couple other guys. Chris Johnson from the county, Finance Director will be there, and I've heard from 2 county commissioners that one said he'd be there, one possible. So should be a good crowd. And all the local businesses were informed of the meeting as well. We Lee notified him last week through letter. So hopefully we get a good turnout and we put our heads together and kind of see what we can do and work together on kind of reviving the downtown area and get it thriving for everybody.
My plans are to come, but I may be a little late. I have
Okay.
a
We will hold your spot to speak to the end.
Yeah. Very end.
And then at the end, there will be a closing session for the mayor to thank everybody, and if you would like to say something as well, as behalf of the board, you're more than welcome to. If not, Don will handle it all.
Don has it.
Man.
That's all I have for you, sir.
And Harold could come if there was Yankees.
Just say a blessing.
Yeah.
It finds out Parkside there.
If there is no other business, is a motion to adjourn.
There it is.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Thank you. We have bids. I think we have 2 or maybe 3 people
That's what we're
that
looking for.
the whole project.
Yeah. What do you have?
For the,
We